Thank you.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I'm Jeff Benson, and I am super excited to talk to you all about fear. Before we get started and me giving you the nuts and bolts behind what's happening inside your brains, your athletes' brains and bodies, I want to get a little sense on when or if I were to walk into Island Elite, what would I see? What is your culture like? What are the things that I would see from your athletes in a general practice?
I'll let them try to answer first before I do.
Great.
What's it? A lot of like collaboration between like coaches and both athletes. I feel like we're very dynamic where we're like always working with one another. Like other athletes, our teams all like are back to back, so a lot of like coaches and athletes like interact.
So I would see coaches asking athletes lots of questions. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. The treble is a little off, so it's kind of like you're underwater because I think you're all so far from the mic.
Yeah.
So
I'll see if I
will be like asking clarifying question. That's what's happening right now. Anybody else? What else would I see?
What else, guys? What about our culture did we talk about today? Yeah, we emphasize good sportsmanship.
Can I get more specifics on, for you all, because I do believe we all define words differently, what would good sportsmanship at Island Elite look like?
What is what you were going to say tied into this?
Yeah, I think so.
So I see your hands moving, but I hear nothing. Mishan, can you translate?
Yes. So Emily said that she's newer to Island Elite as a coach, but she notices that we have a big culture of inclusion and support between athletes, like whether it's inter-team support or between other teams. We're kind of a small gym, but we've grown a lot in the last 3 years.
That's great.
But yeah, for the first like 7 years of our infancy, we've really identified as a small gym and had that family friendly, close knit feel where whether you're on like a U8 team or a U16 team, you were cheering each other on at competitions or just like chatting in the lobby, that kind of thing.
I like that. Thanks, Emily.
Anything else, anyone? Culture wise?
I see coaches' heads turned to the right, so I don't know if somebody was talking, but I didn't hear anything.
Okay, so Jocelyn said that we really focus on ensuring athletes have a positive attitude. Regardless of if something's gone wrong in practice, we try our best to like move past it and not allow one thing that's gone wrong to sort of affect our attitude.
I love that. So one of the things I brought up earlier, oh, sorry.
You have one more, is that okay?
Really quick, I'm going to write down one thing goes wrong. Yep, go ahead.
Jocelyn's point, like you have to practice, like so
So Jaya said that what we try to do is, regardless of what's happening in our personal lives, we try our best to leave it at the door and be in what we call the bubble when we're here at cheer practice.
Right. So I hear two things that are really important that I want to slow down a bit, but they're good, they're positive. But so that we all have common language, we understand kind of where we're going. one thing that I liked from the coach before that they were saying is that when one thing goes wrong, really our impact is that we're trying to help athletes be able to not let that one thing be a negative ripple effect on the other. Did I hear that right?
Definitely.
So here's a live example. I kind of started our session today with this in mind. Hey, I like to use what's happening in the present moment. So I'm not hearing most of you. I heard Jaya like underwater and I saw her hands move. So I like kind of heard a little bit. I'm like, okay, at least I know she's talking. But here's a live example. My desire when I do coaches training is to interact. I've been a part of so many as a coach as well, where the person just talks to me for an hour. Not that that's a bad thing, but I would prefer it be interactive. I prefer asking questions. I prefer being able to make it a collaborative experience. But we have a hurdle in our way. I can't hear you all. So Mishan is translating for you all to me, which isn't ideal, but that is one of the things. Can I get a show of hands? That is one of the things in this generation that I often see is that when one thing goes wrong, it is really hard for them to not be impacted negatively. Put your hands up if you're noticing that. Awesome. Put your hands down. So I'm seeing that you all see a lot of the things that I am also noticing when I work as a mental block or a sports performance consultant around the world. So around the globe, when I go and travel, working with programs, teams, athletes, I do so under the title of sports performance consultant. What I do as Jeff Benson, owner of Mind Body Cheer, is try and immerse myself in every culture that I find myself in. Figure out what you all, in this example, what you all do really well. What is your intent? What's your impact on the athletes? How do they interact with each other? I call this the triad. What would I notice from the parents in your culture? What would I notice in the athletes in your culture? And what would I notice from you all as coaches? And your culture is how this triad interacts with each other. There are always going to be positives. And that's kind of how we started today. What are some of the things that you really like about your culture? But in every culture, especially what I call the champion-minded cultures, you're going to notice that there are things that are not ideal. There are going to be what I call limiters, things that are holding us back from being our ideal. One of the things that I notice because of our societal culture that is holding us back is that we are in a day and age where athletes, even us as coaches, and parents are experiencing things at the tip of our fingers every single day. We can Uber Eats. We can get our groceries on the same day, and we don't need to leave our house. We can be connected to anyone in the world by like the movement of our thumbs. I think it's important that we all acknowledge that though some of us, me especially, because I was born last century, those of us especially who were born last century did not have everything at our fingertips every moment of every day. I'm not giving any value to this, like, oh, so our generation's better and we worked harder and this generation. That's not what I'm doing. I just want to talk about our cultures in which we grew up in. The culture in which I grew up in didn't have the privilege or benefit of, I could call an Uber. If I wanted a cab, I still had to get on a phone, call a cab, sit and wait. I hope they're coming. I don't know if they are. But on our phones, we can like track somebody. I didn't have to go home and check my answering machine to know if somebody called me. I like have this thing on my hand now. This instantaneous culture now, it's important that we understand, is creating an atmosphere where our athletes do not have a life experience where things don't occur right away. I believe that we as coaches, adults, are doing this generation a disservice because we're looking at them as if they are privileged, as if they are less than, that they're not mentally tough, they're not resilient, they're not gritty, and we are blaming them. They did not create the internet, everybody. They did not create Uber. They did not create Amazon. That was my generation. We did that. These kids are just the byproduct of the benefit of this current culture. Any of us, I included, if I were born in 2004, I would not be the same person I am today. So why am I bringing this up? I believe our sport has a unique ability to help teach this generation a unique skill set that is not inherent in this generation. Grittiness, mental toughness, delay of gratification, the ability to manage emotions and emotionally regulate, have hard conversations. Cheerleading, if done well or champion-minded, absolutely is the straight shot to this generation being successful leaders in the future. How awesome is that? You all get to lead this generation to become the leaders of tomorrow. So what I do as a sports performance consultant is not just talk about like, yay, okay, yay, we cheerleading. It is, we have to look at our limiters in our sport, which isn't fun, to learn how can we then make our sport transformative to this generation. And I believe, for the topic of today, I believe teaching coaches on how to help support athletes through a mental block is literally the silver bullet, because it is the hardest, most emotionally taxing situation that can happen to an athlete. That if you learn how to coach an athlete through one, and I'm not talking about like resolving it, it doesn't even have to be resolved. But if you know how to properly coach an athlete who's experiencing this debilitating fear, and you use these same strategies in your practices, there you go. Magic bullet to becoming future leaders of tomorrow. Let's get ready to rumble. All right.
Right.
So really quick, if you are interested, right now my PowerPoint is popping up. This is what we're talking about, mental block and fear management. I'm going to give you 10 seconds. If you're interested, scan that QR code. I get it. Mishan was like, turn off your phone from the Wi-Fi. You can still click on it, and hopefully you have cell service enough that you can get, I think it's like 5 or 6 handouts that will, one, help you frame what we're talking about today, but it's also kind of like a thank you gift from me to you
Thank
that
you.
you can continue to use with your athletes. You're welcome. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what are mental blocks, and then what is just realistic fear. You got to understand the brain to understand how to help athletes resolve this fear. So if you're a little science averse, take a deep breath. We're not going to deep dive the brain, but it is important that you understand 3 parts of it. One being your amygdala. And when it comes to fear, you have to understand the vital role it plays in fear. We're going to talk about 3 groups of strategies. And then throughout our session, please interrupt me, ask me questions, and we're going to role play what and how to work with athletes who have fear, whether it's a mental block or just realistic fear. So let's get started. What's the difference then, Jeff, between a mental block and realistic fear? I define a mental block in 4 ways. First, the athlete has to own the skill. That means they have near excellent to perfect technique. Second, they then perform this skill in front of thousands of people. They must have performed this skill thousands of times before, and in many different places. Let's review. They own the skill, great technique, in front of thousands of people, thousands of times before, many different places. All 4 elements must be there, and now the athlete can no longer throw it, is the definition of a mental block. So if you look at this athlete, I'm just going to go to the middle of this here. You can see, and many of you, if you've seen athletes with fear tumbling, they have this like, I can do it, come on, but they're standing there for a long time. They're trying to take deep breaths. They're trying to encourage themselves. But hopefully all of us are on the same page that athlete's technique is excellent. Sure, she's not rebounding. She's not hollow in the rebound. Her arms aren't up. All of those are fear-based reactions, but you can see head neutral. Her legs are straight. Her feet are together. She's hitting a nice hollow body block. This is an athlete who's experiencing a mental block. She had a layout, and now she's struggling to even throw a back handspring by herself. That differs from realistic fear. If you can see from this athlete, they do not have excellent technique. They don't even have an excellent round off. So if you look right here, you can see in her round off that big, huge arch in her lower back. That is not excellent. Her head is, look at that head. So if this athlete comes to me and all of a sudden she's like, today, Jeff, I'm scared to throw my back tuck. Well, yeah, girl, you don't even own your back handspring. Now, what's essential is, how would I coach this athlete? What does my language sound like? Though many of us, you get the unscripted or the unmasked Jeff. That athlete does not have excellent technique or form. She does not own that skill. In fact, that's not a pretty round up back handspring back tuck. This is an athlete I coached nearly 15 years ago. I have evolved as a coach. That athlete I would not have even like allowed a back tuck today. But 15 years ago, she was on a level 3 team. We needed more back tucks. She was confident enough to chuck it. So I'm like, we need our numbers, keep going. But if this athlete all of a sudden came up to me and said, Jeff, I can't do a round up back handspring back tuck, she doesn't have a mental block. How I'm going to converse with her about that may be a question you all have, which I'm open to answering. But I want to make sure before we now go into the second part, knowing your brain, does anybody have any questions about the definition or anything to do with what I've shared so far?
That makes sense. Did any of that surprise you or make you think what a mental block is a little bit? Yeah. Yeah, I like the differentiation between mental block and realistic fear, and it's helpful.
Good. Awesome. So let's dive into the next puzzle piece, being we then have to understand, how does our brain, for both mental blocks and realistic fear, because awesome, everybody, BOGO, buy one, get one. Even if you have athletes that have realistic fear, everything we talk about today, totally relevant. The strategies we're going to talk today, the same. And it doesn't even have to be tumbling. You have that athlete who's like gonna throw up before they compete or feel like they are. Guess what? Today is the day to learn how to help them. I'm not going to deep dive the specific strategies because that is where the bulk of our time would need to be. Like, okay, where do I need to go? And I'm going to explain, like, as if we're a fork in the road, how it would change. But at the end of the day, it's the same parts of the brain that get triggered. It's the same fundamental thing that needs to be changed. So let's get to how fear, either one, resolves in the brain. So the first of three parts of your brain you have to know is the cortex. Imagine, hopefully you've like seen this, whether it be in like, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy or The Residence or even in school, that gray outer Brady part of the brain is the cortex. I like to think of the cortex with different ways. Sometimes I call it the big brain. Sometimes I call it the wild monkey. But though the cortex does a lot of things, the one thing you need to understand when it comes to fear is the cortex job is to think and process. So of your five senses, I can see something and my cortex might worry. I think something, my cortex might worry or ruminate, means to think about over and over again. I may have anticipation of an event. All of this resolves itself in the cortex or the wild monkey. Even think today, when I was signing on, I have a running internal dialogue from my cortex or wild monkey that's thinking like, oh my gosh, how do I pronounce this owner's name? I know I'm not going to say it right. I'm going to embarrass myself. This is my wild monkey. So my strategy was, hi, I'm Jeff. I don't know if you all caught it. I like, that's my like, hi, I'm Jeff, hoping she would like introduce herself. She didn't, everybody. She was like, oh, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, oh, great. Oh, I'm going to be so embarrassed to ask her, like, how do I say your name right? Oh, mortified. Because I do, just side note, I do believe that being able to pronounce somebody's name right helps to form positive connections. I think at the bare minimum, it tells someone you matter to me. So because I have that belief, then in my wild monkey, I have like, if you say their name wrong, you're basically telling them they don't matter to you. Mishan, whether or not that is correct in your story in your head, that is my story. Luckily, she said her name, and I literally was like, I got to write this down like phonetically. Now, I'm going to double check because I did that this week. This girl's name was Evie, and I kept calling her Evie. Oh, mortified. It took me like 7 times to get it wrong. So I just want to double check. Is Mishan the right way to say your name?
Have it perfectly.
Yeah.
Thank
You're
you.
all going to learn this. It's called anchoring. You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. So the reason I brought that up was not to just like brain dump on you. I want you to understand how the cortex or wild monkey works in all of us. Y'all, I have a background. In psychology. I was a marriage and family therapist. I have years of training and I still like have that script in my head, the story that I'm not good enough, that I'm a fake and a fraud and a phony. You all aren't going to like my session. But what's important is not assuming that I'm going to get rid of my wild monkey because it serves me in some way. I need it. But when it ruminates, worries, anticipates too much, like a DJ, the volume up is too loud. It's important that I have resources and strategies to like turn it down. So let's talk about the second part of our brain that helps to do it. So the second part of our brain is called our prefrontal cortex. It's what's right behind our forehead. I also call our prefrontal cortex, rather than our big brain, our medium brain, or instead of our wild monkey, like the cortex, I call it our wise owl. Its job is to think and process. So going back to my example with Mishan, my prefrontal cortex says, my wise owl, hey, Jeff, ask her if you're pronouncing her name right. Share with the coaches your fears so that they understand that having fear is okay. So what my wise owl does is it helps me make good decisions and choices. It helps me be able to see into the future and make different choices than before that may not have worked out. Can I get thumbs up? We're going to take a little pause. Can I get thumbs up that this makes sense so far? My hope, this is my prefrontal cortex. I have hope that you all see, yeah, we're talking about mental blocks and stuff like that, but this literally is everything. Everything. Your athletes have a lot of worries in their brain. Doesn't matter how or where or what. Like, what does my coach think of me? This is my first year on a U18 level 2 team. I don't know anyone. Not a mental block, it's fear. From the cortex. Fun fact, your prefrontal cortex is under construction until you're 25. If you as a coach have a mission or an intention to help create future leaders, if your desire as a coach is more than winning, if you want to like positively impact today's generation, you want to help develop their prefrontal cortex. You want to help create an environment every moment that they're at Island Elite to create an environment where their prefrontal cortex gets processed so it gets stronger. I hope this makes sense. So what we want to do, this is especially with fear, but also mental blocks, is understand now our third part of our brain, our amygdala, aka our little brain or our barking dog. Understand that this little almond-shaped structure in the middle of your brain, its job is to keep you safe. So if your wild monkey, big brain, is so loud, if you've ever been to the zoo and gone to like the monkey cages, they're so loud, it's gonna cause your barking dog to start barking. Or what I like to say, cause you to flip your lid. So if your big brain has so much noise in it that your little brain hears it, it's going to cause your barking dog to go wild, and that creates your medium brain or your wise owl to fly away or go offline. Now, that again is not just mental blocks, not just realistic fear, it's anything. Your boyfriend telling you to do the dishes. Your wild monkey tells a story. Oh my God, I just got home. Give me a break. And you start screaming and yelling at him to back off. Same thing that happens in the mind of an athlete who has a mental block. Same thing that happens in the mind of a parent who gets really upset that their child didn't make the level that they wanted. And they're like sending nasty emails. Or the athlete that you're trying to bring into your culture that's shut down and isn't talking. And you're like, how do you feel? I don't know. Why did the stud not hit? All of that is barking dog causing the wise owl to fly away. All of it. Before I get into the facts about the amygdala, this little brain, barking dog, what questions, if any, do you all have about what I've covered so far?
I think we're good.
All right. That's power through. So 3 things you need to know about your barking dog. 1, we kind of already talked about this. Your barking dog scans the environment all day long to keep us safe. Our brain is not reactive. Our brain is predictive, which means when our brain is used to something happening, it's going to try and predict what's going to happen next in order to keep us safe. For example, I have my dog underneath my chair. If his sister, my other dog, starts barking, he's going to jump up from underneath my feet and run to the door. Predictive. He assumes something is wrong. So when our amygdala feels that we are in danger, one of three things happen. We fight like a lion. My boyfriend tells me, why am I not cleaning the dishes? And I yell at him, fight like a lion. Second thing that could happen is that when our amygdala feels in danger, it's going to run away like a zebra. So if I am about to perform a tumbling pass, but I am worried about my stunt in the next section, my brain is going to run like a zebra and try and fast forward what I'm doing in the present moment. So I'm not going to think about my tumbling pass because my cortex is so worried about the future, which causes me to go at the wrong time in my tumbling pass, causes me to go later in my tumbling pass, causes me to touch down and I've never touched down before in my life. Because my brain is not in the present moment, it's in the future, I call it time traveling, or in the past. The third thing that could happen when my amygdala feels triggered or unsafe is freeze in its shell like a turtle. When an athlete has a true mental block, what they're doing is freezing like a turtle. They're going into its shell in order to protect themselves from danger. So when an athlete is time traveling to the future in the routine, they're trying to keep themselves safe by fleeing like a zebra. When you scream and yell at your partner for saying something, what you're doing is trying to get your partner to back off because your amygdala feels threatened. The second thing we need to know about our amygdala is that it stores emotional memories. And it does this in order to support its role of being predictive. When my brain has had lots of positive things happen, it's going to, like a light switch, pair together one of those five senses with those feel-good feelings. An example, my amygdala may have paired a song from my past where lots of positive things have happened, like a light switch, like the male-female part. And so every time I hear that song, the first couple notes, I feel joy and excitement. Our brain is predictive. Da da. Oh, I love this song. Amygdala. The same thing occurs in mental blocks. Hey, go ahead, throw that back handspring. Oh my gosh, I can't do my back handspring. I'm so scared. I used to be able to do it before. Now, Mishan is so much better than me. I used to be the best tumbler in the gym. My coaches used to tell me how great I am, but I can't throw it anymore. I'm going to be mortified in front of my team. My mom's going to tell me I have to quit cheer. Think of how my wild monkey just thought of like 17 negative memories triggered in my brain. And every time, kind of like a Ferris wheel, I have a negative thought stamped negative in my brain. Every time I have a negative emotional experience, I leave the gym crying. Negative stamp. So essentially, what a mental block is a discrepancy in so many negative emotional memories or stamps in the brain versus positive that the athlete's amygdala hijacks their nervous system because it no longer trusts the athlete to keep it safe. The amygdala is not the enemy. The amygdala is just a barking puppy that has been screamed at so much that it doesn't know when it's safe and when it's in danger. That's all a mental block is. So, really, at its core, mental blocks are very simple to resolve at its core. All you have to do is regain more positive emotional memories so that the athlete's amygdala trusts them again, and they're going to start tumbling. But clearly, because part of what I do every single day is work with athletes who have mental blocks, their coaches, all of you, and their parents. If it was really easy to resolve, this wouldn't be a thing. So though it's simple, it's not easy, because what ends up happening, the more negative emotional memories we have stamped in our brain, what's actually happening scientifically is that we have these neurons. We have more neurons in our brains than stars in the sky. So we have like trillions of neurons in our brain. They talk to each other through things called neural pathways. So what these negative stamps are neural pathways getting burned in our brain. It becomes this habit. And when we have a habit burned in our brain that's positive, we have great technique in our tumbling and we never have to think about it. We just do it. Before I got old, when I was tumbling, I didn't have to think about my technique in a round off back handspring full. I like just did it and it was excellent. It didn't even, no thought. I just boop, boop, boop. I didn't have to warm up, boop, 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 because I had a shortcut in my brain and my body was able to just do it on autopilot. But inside the brain of an athlete who has a mental block, that autopilot switch, cruise control, is turned off by the amygdala because the amygdala doesn't think the athlete is safe. Break number 2. What questions do you have about the fundamental science now of the amygdala in comparison to fear, realistic fear, and or mental blocks?
So the discrepancy between negative emotional memories and the brain causes either a mental block or realistic fear?
Everyone hear Mishan's excellent question? So when an athlete has an abundance of negative emotional memories versus positive, so that's what creates realistic fear and a mental block? No, that's the difference. When somebody has realistic fear, the brain is starting to stamp negative emotional memories. You stamp too many. Literally, think of a scale. You stamp too many of these, and it's gonna lead either to a mental block, which then creates like, best example. I don't have a mental block in a round off back handspring tuck, but I have I'm learning negative memories in my tuck while I'm learning it. I can't do this. Why can't I do it well? What's wrong with me? Now I can't throw my tuck. Now, my mom is like, I've paid so much money for my tuck. Now I can't throw it. It's still not a mental block because you never owned a tuck. But what happens, Mishan, when that athlete tries a round off back handspring eventually?
Just the round off back handspring?
Yeah. I have this many negative memories on my realistic fear of a tuck. What's going to happen to that round off back handspring?
Well, I would hope that it would be good and then it would create positive emotional memories and then close the scale, but it could also, the fear could affect the round off handspring and then it could grow even further and further apart.
99% of the athletes I work with, what happens? That's dramatic. 90% of the athletes I work with have created a habit loop in their brain of drive. That sucks. That's not good enough. Do it again. Do it again. Perfectionism. That wasn't good enough. Do it again while learning a skill. Let's say it's a layout. And even though they have positive memories in their tuck, they're learning a habit of the way in which I talk to myself, wild monkey, is so negative, so life or death to try and get myself to work harder that my barking dog is hearing my language. So we're thinking, yeah, but you have positive emotional memories in your tuck. Yeah, but your barking dog hears how you're talking to it. So what happens is now you're not throwing your layout, which is fine, realistic fear. But my coach never addressed the way in which I talk to myself. My coach allowed me. In fact, my coach reinforced. Do you see how hard Mishan works? Do you see how she comes in and does so many private lessons every week? Do you everyone see how beautiful Mishan's round up back handspring tuck is? It's so high. She is so powerful. She learned her back tuck so quick. You all are like, these are positive emotional memories. Yeah. And now what happens when she starts struggling with the layout? She's going to lose her tuck, everybody. Why? Because she's talked to herself in a negative way, habit, so long that she's going to one time, she does a layout like, oh, it's not perfect. I'm piking down. I suck. I'm the worst ever. Try it again. Let's do some shaping drills. No big deal. Shake it out. Shaping drills are for babies. This is so stupid. I was doing layouts without a drill before. Why do I have to do this stupid drill? This is so dumb. Can't I just throw it on the ground? And you're like, oh my gosh, I love that you're like really trying to get it. This is great. Okay, you did your drill. Let's do it on the ground. And let's say they like land a little short on their tuck and they're like, oh, my ankle, my ankle. Crying, stamping, negative. I hope we're all following this. Mishan's laughing because clearly she's thinking of a kid right now who is this. And now you're like, okay, let's now just do our tuck. The thing that you all think is like so many positive emotional memories. They go for a tuck, but their ankle hurts and they don't throw it because their ankle hurts. Or their brain, amygdala, in the middle of the air triggers the feeling of that really hurt my ankle. My brain flies away like a zebra and I forget what I'm doing. And I fall on my neck or I touch down. That is literally all it takes. Now the athlete won't throw a tuck. One time. It wasn't that one time that caused the mental block. It was the months, years of mean, nasty, wild monkey coaching in their own brain. Or just to use my language from Dr. Carol Dweck, it's a fixed mindset. My value and worth is based on how quickly I can do things. My talent, ability, intelligence is based, and it's being judged every single second. A fixed-minded athlete is focused on perfectionism, learning skills quickly. Your grades and winning are what matter more than your hard work, dedication, and effort. Coaches, we're in a fixed-minded sport. Literally, the most perfect team wins. So if we are not actively teaching our athletes how to not burn the fixed mindset route in our brain, if we don't actively stop it, your kids are all going to have fixed mindsets. Think of your highest level team in your gym. Really quick, Mishan, what's the highest level team in your gym? 5, 6? 5. So think of all those girls who are throwing fulls. How many of them would you describe as perfectionists?
Well, most of them are in this room. I would say almost all of them have really, really high standards for themselves. Like we don't even need to be because they're hard on themselves.
We don't even need to critique them. They're so hard on themselves. They have such high standards. This is in itself, high standards does not mean fixed mindset, please. There's a way to have high standards. There's a way to desire excellence and it not be fixed minded. Please make sure you all understand that. We can get into this probably another day, but where the scale tips is when your perfectionism believes, wild monkey, that your worth is based on your skills. Oh my gosh, I didn't hit my full up switch up. I suck as a base. I'm letting my team down. I am the worst athlete here. I'm backstage. Oh my gosh, if I if my stunt group doesn't hit, I'm going to let everybody down. That's literally the wild monkey voice with a microphone from the fixed mindset. That is where mental blocks come from. So you as coaches must purposefully coach the growth mindset. That's like the one-way ticket to helping, not just your teams reach their end goals. Like, oh, we want to make it to summit. We want to win provincials. Yeah, develop a growth mindset. It's the way to bubble wrap your team. A fixed mindset, a lot of people, this like high standards in the fixed mindset, a lot of people think like, oh, that's the way to win. Yeah, actually, that's the most fragile athlete in the room. I ask you one question you can't answer, you're probably going to cry. I'm going to ask you to do a skill that's not perfect in front of everyone. You're going to run away like a zebra. I hope you're all like, oh yeah, I know that kid. They like the hardest worker in the gym, grind their gears. They're there all the time. But if you ask them to do something they might mess up, they're gonna lose their mind. They're not that tough. They're actually very fragile. That doesn't mean they're a bad athlete. I was this athlete myself. What it is all we have to do is help this athlete change their habit into a growth mindset. And that athlete is going to then be able to have that bubble wrap safety net to help them reach their goals. All right. I don't want to, just because mindset is literally my favorite thing to talk about, I want to be mindful. That mindset is going to be one of the most important strategies we can use to help arm our athletes to deal with realistic fear, to not overstamp negative memories. So it's number 2. So really quick, the first set of strategies are physical strategies. When I notice that my brain, my wild monkey is going wild, is really loud, taking deep, purposeful breaths help get our wise owl to fly back. Our nervous system calms down, our wise owl flies back online, and we make better choices. I did this earlier when I got Mishan's name pronounced correctly. I was like, yes! It's called anchoring, physical strategy. I give myself a pat on the back. I high five my teammates. I fist bump my coach. Physical strategies to anchor a new pathway or neural pathway in my brain, so it will be more likely that my brain becomes predictive. When I do something slightly better, I celebrate. Versus most of you level 5s, the moment you land a skill, your first reaction is likely negative. Oh, I didn't set. Oh, I touched down. Oh, I stepped forward. Inside of a growth mindset, the first thought in your brain is, what did I do better? I'm really proud of myself for challenging my nervous system to do something harder. So what we're doing there are mental strategies. Mental strategies are the purposeful or intentional ways to reroute the pathways in our brain. Mental strategies are the ticket to strengthening your confidence, whether it be like out with friends and like what you look like and being able to find a partner and being backstage and believing that you can achieve your goals. It all stems from mental strategies, one being the growth mindset. I also talk about a mental strategy category as the remote control strategy. Think of a remote control. We've got our mute button. So there are mute button strategies. We have a change the channel strategy. Think about something else. And we also have our turn down the volume strategy. I'm going to give you an example of a turn down the volume strategy that's mental. An example is using my brain growth formula. So just so that we're all on the same page. We're talking mental strategies, and we have, that's one of 3 categories. We have physical, behavioral, mental strategies. One of my general mental strategies is the remote control strategy. The remote control strategy has 3 parts. We have the mute button, we have the change the channel button, and then we have the turn down the volume. So of turn down the volume button, we have the remote control strategy. Oh, sorry, wow. I need to take a deep breath because I'm going too fast. To slow down my wild monkey that's currently saying, Jeff, you have 10 minutes left. You haven't let them ask questions yet. My wild monkey gets faster and faster. I talk faster and faster, and then I don't speak clearly, or I misspeak. So I use a mental strategy to calm myself down, to remind myself I'm good enough, mental strategy. All right, so turn down the volume. We are going to do the brain growth formula. The brain growth formula is so simple. It is literally, and this is how one way to change your mindset. The first question you ask yourself when you're done with a skill is, what did I do better? The second question you ask yourself is, name or statement is name one. I hope everyone sees I purposely caps locked that. Name one goal for next time. Mishan, do we always do better? Every single time?
No.
So,
I mean, maybe.
yeah, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Well, I was gonna say, I think making an attempt is always a positive thing. So even if the skill wasn't necessarily better, you have one more rep in you.
I have one more rep in me. I like that you brought that up. So a growth mindset way to look at it might be, okay, what did I do better? Even though I was really tired, I tried to do one more rep. Name one goal for next time. Even though I didn't like that rep, I am proud of myself that I tried, but this time I'm going to take like a 2-minute break and I'm going to try and do my final rep so I end on a good one. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, like a good quality rep.
Yeah, a good quality rep. I literally demoed this with you all. Oh, I'm speeding my talking up. What was I doing better than before? Nothing. Why? Because I was letting my wild monkey worry about the future. Okay, so what's your one goal? Take a deep breath and slow down so that I can end my 10 minutes with quality education. I then also heard from my wise owl, because I calmed down my nervous system. My wise owl flew back online. If Mishan wants you to talk like 10 extra minutes, like it's 10 minutes. Like, you're fine, Jeff. Yeah, but what if Mishan, wild monkey, what if Mishan doesn't want 10 minutes because she has something else? Well, that's up to her. You can say, hey, Mishan, I'll stay on 10 more minutes. Do you want me to? And if she says yes, solved. If she says no, did you do the best you could? I did. I was present for an hour. I gave you everything I got. I think it was pretty good. Was it perfect? No. Was it good enough? Yep. Okay, so take a deep breath, calm down. That didn't happen overnight, coaches. That process, as I was talking, doing all the blah, 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 take a deep breath. I'm not kidding. All of those thoughts were automatic in my brain while I was talking. Because I've practiced this, because I'm an old fart, I'm 47. I practiced this for like 15 years. Being a recovering perfectionist, a high drive individual cheerleader, it's taken me a long time to change the habits in my brain. But I'm working on it every day. And I'm better every day. And I'm damn proud of it. Name one goal for next time. Keep going. Cool. Anchor that. Keep going. All right. Let's get into the nitty gritty of behavioral strategies. Before I do, Mishan, do you all have 10, 15 minutes of extra time that I can go into this more in depth and then ask any question, have your coaches ask any questions they have?
Yeah, we're flexible for sure. And I'd love to hear more. So if you're okay, then please
High
go.
five. See how this works, everybody? Instead of the story in my head being like you're a failure because you couldn't do this in 1 hour and Mishan is so embarrassed for you and she wishes she went with somebody else to do this training, I'm muting that voice. I'm muting it and going, all right, let's move on. Behavioral strategies. I have fundamentally 3 rules when I work with athletes who have fear in the gym. The coolest part is this works for your teams too. Not even mental blocks. Think of those kids who are trying to do pull-up, switch-up stretches. Rule 1, do not try a pull-up, switch-up stretch if your fear is above a 3. Do not try kick double baskets if your fear is above a 3. On a scale, so what is a 3? On a scale from 0, no fear at all, to a 5, overwhelming paralyzed fear. Like a 5 is full-on turtle, full-on zebra, full-on lion. Never allow your fear to go above a 3. What would that look like in the context of a mental block? Think of a 0 as I'm feeling good, I am proud, I am happy, I have no hesitation, I'm just throwing that skill with excellence. A 1 is I have just a titch of fear. I might say, hey, quickly, can I warm that up? Spot me for 1. Total sign of a 1 of fear out of 5. Another sign of a 1 is just 1 quick deep breath. Maybe a 1 second hesitation. When I say a 2 of fear, what I'm meaning is now the kind of like a pot of boiling water. We've gone from a cold pot of water, putting the pot of water on the stove. A 2 is now the pot of water is warm. Maybe there are little bubbles popping up from the base, but you can put your hand in and it's warm, but it's not hot. That's a 2. What that would look like from your athletes is when they are going for a skill, they definitely pause before they go. They are waiting, standing here. There's going to be some sort of wiping their hands, looking behind themselves, or kind of like a dog or a cat trying to find the perfect spot, they move their feet. They're going to be waiting about 5, maybe 10 seconds before they throw a skill. This is where you as a coach start feeling, ooh, they're feeling nervous. You'll see this again before athletes go into a basket toss. You'll see it before athletes go on the performance floor. You'll see lots of 2s. 3s are where the athlete is usually in their brain, it's like a 50-50, like I might throw it, I might not. I think I can do it. I know I can do it, but it's not going. I don't know why. The 3, think of the 3 as Goldilocks and the 3 bears. The bet is too hard, a 5. Avoid 5s. The bet is too soft. It's too easy. We don't stay in easy our whole lesson. But Jeff, that's where our positive stamps come from when we just keep it easy. Yes, but if everything is easy, when life gives us hard or challenging, that jump feels so overwhelming that we can't do it. Best example, all of those athletes who just got their back handsprings and want to be on the level 2 team. And all their parents are like, she has a level 2 skill, put her on a level 2 team. And all of you are like, I can't think of a worse thing to do. Yes, there are lots of reasons, but let's talk about rule 1. Think of how much fear that athlete's going to have when the whole team is tumbling or doing a back handspring around them. Do you think their fear, show me, is going to go up, stay the same, or go down when the kid just learns a back handspring and they're now doing it with a team? To count. More fear, same fear, or less? Show me. they're without a doubt going to have more fear with people around them. Now it's choreography. Is the kid going to have more fear, the same amount of fear, or less fear at choreography than at practice? More. Now, the athlete has the back handspring choreographed in the routine. Are they going to have more fear, the same fear, or less fear doing a full out in the gym compared to a competition? More, equal, or less? More. I see that you aren't sure of this. Science. More. It's called the theory of degradation. The more fear you have, the more pressure that you have, the more likely your nervous system is going to be to flip. Also, your technique is more impacted the more fear you have. Now, put that back handspring in the end of the routine. More fear, same fear, or less than if the back handspring was in the beginning of the routine. So when the parent goes, my kid has a back handspring, put them on level 2. What they're asking, like, I get why they're asking it. I get why they think, but you now have language to be able to express that back handspring. As proud as we are of them working hard, taking private lessons, what you're doing is putting that 2 of fear. Now you're asking them to do it with people around them. That 2 is going to become a 3 or a 4. Now it's not just one back handspring. Remember, a 2 takes like 10 seconds to like, and you're like 5, 6, 7 back handspring, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, everybody, line it up. Let's do it again. 5, 6, 7, 8. That kid who just learned the back handspring can't go every time because at a 2, they're not going every time. And so think of how many negative stamps are being put in their brain. I've got 2 more rules and then we're going to go to questions. So write them down so I can power through and help you all elevate your coaching to help all your athletes who have fear. Rule 2 is that your athletes are not allowed to do a skill after not throwing it 3 times in a row. So if that athlete pops a pass 3 times in a row, that is a sign that their wise owl has flown away. Even if their fear is a 3, if they say it's a 3 and they don't go 3 times in a row, it does not matter. They're not allowed to do it again. Why? Because it's going to be another negative emotional memory. It also, when you don't throw it, your fear level each time is likely going to go up a degree or 2 each time. So sure, the first time you tried it was a 2, but you didn't throw it. Now it's probably a 3. You didn't throw it again. And at that time, the wise owl is flying away. So the athlete isn't re-scanning their body for like, oh, is it still a 2? No, on that second missed attempt, they're just trying to chuck it. So you need to be their wise owl. Hey, I noticed you're standing there for a long time. How much fear do you have? I don't know. They have at least a 3 of fear. So if they don't go 3 times in a row, if they have more than a 3 of fear, Jeff, what do? We use my strategy S3. S3 means you change the surface they're tumbling on. If they're on a spring floor, maybe put them on a mat. If they're on the spring floor, put them on a tumble track, on a rod floor. They're on the rod floor, missing it 3 times, put them on the tumble track. They're on the tumble track, Jeff, we have nothing else to use. Try changing the spot. If they were doing it by themselves, try standing there. You're standing there and they're not throwing it, try doing it with 1 finger. Or try doing what I call a catch in the middle, which means when they throw or they jump, if they initiate it, then spot them in the middle. In my handouts, I have a whole bunch of do's and don'ts. There's only one that is really important I pull out right now. Do not tell your kids you are going to spot them and not. No, Yeah, but Jeff, they've got it. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have seen or heard, do you have me? And the coach is like, yeah, totally. And the athlete goes to throw their back handspring, and the coach does this like, I'm trying to like stamp a positive memory and show you like, oh, you totally got it. And so I'm going to do this, and they get done, and you're like, you did it by yourself after they asked you to spot them. Even if you do this, yeah, but you did it by yourself. Because what's happening is now the athlete is standing to go again, and all they're thinking is, are they going to spot me again this time? They don't know. They're not trusting you. So instead of being internally focused on keeping their lid on, using a growth mindset, physical strategies like deep breathing, body scan to keep their fear below a 2, focusing on their technique to bend and jump, all they're doing is wondering if Emily's going to spot them or not. Last rule, and then we'll get to questions. Sometimes what ends up happening is that athletes, like the one in the very beginning of today, who was standing on that 8-inch crash mat for a long time, sometimes what you notice is the athlete's going to stand there for more than 10 seconds. In this case, 2 things happen. The first is that it counts as one missed attempt when they stand there for more than 10 seconds. The second thing I want you to do if the athlete stands there for more than 10 seconds is to make sure that you have them jump, forward roll, cartwheel, handstand, tell you a funny joke, go get a drink of water. They cannot come back and try it again until they have moved. The scientific reason for that is when you stand there with your feet frozen or your turtle in its shell for more than 10 seconds, the chemical of cortisol is getting released, which only means the athlete is more likely to freeze again. Moving helps to move that frozen chemical out of their body bloodstream, which then makes it more likely for them to throw again. So I can't tell you the amount of times I've seen athletes stand there and you're like, walk away. No, I got it. Give me another set. Give me another chance. And then you're like, okay. And they keep standing there and it takes them like a minute and they finally throw that back handspring. Coaches, there's nothing worse that could happen to that athlete. I'm going to say it again. There's nothing worse than an athlete standing there for a long period of time and then throwing their skill. Because what it's stamping in that athlete's brain is you need to do that more often. You need to grind or gas pedal to force yourself that immense amount of distress in order to throw your skill. You want, like Goldilocks, to be in that just right zone where they're challenged but not overwhelmed. Really quick, before I get any questions that you all might have, if you're interested in following me, getting more tips, tools on changing mindset, if you want to email me, check out my website, click on or use your phone, QR code my link tree here so that we can stay connected. You can ask me questions. It's not just I'm helping Island Elite for like 60 to 75 minutes. I love being able to support coaches and parents and athletes, that triad, but I can't support you if I don't know you need help. So that's a way to stay in contact with me. All right. So yeah, so it gives me my Instagram, all of it. All right.
Can I ask, can you go back to the S3? I wrote down change surface or spot, but was there anything else that?
There was, and I did not. I'm thankful that you're holding me accountable. I didn't mention it. It is just as a backup plan. All of that is in the handouts that you can get, but let's talk about what S3 is. So S3 stands for surface, skill, and spot. So what I didn't go over was skill. The best example for skill are athletes who are struggling with connecting to skills. Like I'll throw my round off back handspring, pause, and then I'll throw my standing tuck. That's
Yeah.
like so normal. That's a really good sign for me. Also, you definitely have a mental block, because if you're throwing a standing tuck, you definitely, and landing, you definitely have a round off back handspring tuck. So what do? I change the skill. How? Do a back handspring tuck on the tumble track. 0, but it's too easy. 0 to 5. How much fear? None. When's the last time you did it? I can do it. Show me. And I guarantee that athlete is going to get on the tumble track, and the very first time they're going to do this. It's not a 0. And they might even go, wait, no. Oh, why? I have this. This is so dumb. Negative stamp. I know I can do this. Give me a second. Negative stamp. Why am I not going? This is so dumb. I have a standing tuck on the floor. This doesn't make a negative stamp. Change the surface, change the skill, change the spot. So maybe I'm going to come up and be like, I know you got this. You know you got this, but we got to gain trust with our amygdala again. Your amygdala doesn't think you do. So let's get some positive stamps in there. So I'm going to stand there. Oh, still won't go. One finger. Okay. Go again. One finger. 0 to 5, how much fear? Oh, like a 0. Can I just put my hand out? This is what I call an emergency spot. It's on that list. I put my hand out, but I'm not going to touch her. Jeff, you said if you're going to spot, you have to spot, never not. I have already defined for an athlete what an emergency spot is. If you need it, I will give it to you. Second thing you all need to see, my arm goes out and she goes, and it doesn't go away. She goes over my arm. It's still not emergency spot. Okay, I'm here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. You did it yourself. Why? Because her amygdala might trigger freeze in the middle of that back handspring, even though she has a round off back handspring tuck owned, and she's going to crash on her head. And not only does she not trust you, not only is she going to have a mental block longer, you might get sued. You're welcome. Let's not get sued. So I'm emergency spot just in case. She goes over my arm. 0 to 5. How much fear? Oh, like a 2. Do it again. Positive stance. What are you proud of? I'm really proud of myself for challenging myself. Girl, me too. Physical strategy, fist bump. Take a deep breath. Your worth is not based on your skills. Slow down. Oh, I love that deep breath. Good job. This is all growth mindset coaching, by the way. She does it again. 0 to 5, how much fear do you have? Oh, I'm good. How about I stand here now? Back handspring tuck. You know what I'm so proud of you for doing? This is my example still. I'm proud of you for going and pacing yourself, doing a ladder little by little, and now you're throwing a back handspring tuck on the tumble track by yourself. When 4 minutes ago you stood up here frozen with fear. That's just a small 4-minute way of starting to get those positive stamps in your athletes' brains. Next question.
Questions, anyone? Emily?
Yes.
I don't hear any of it. So, Mishan, translate for me.
Just have her
Or
come
she
up
can
and
come
ask.
up here too. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just saying, you talked about having like helping athletes have value for themselves that isn't tied to skills, but I think a lot of the time that can be so hard in a sport where you're leveled based off of the skills that you do have. So what are some strategies that you use to like help athletes be able to do that and not tie their worth to the skills that they have or are doing?
All right, Emily, awesome question. Everybody anchor, whether physically or metaphysical, to Emily. Give her that high five. I love that. Remember, we are inherently a fixed-minded sport. fixed mindset means perfectionism, the fear that our worth is based on our skills or what grade we get. So the answer to that is growth mindset. Okay, but what does that look like to this very specific example, Jeff? Good challenge. It could look a lot of different ways. My first intervention is you have to make sure parents, triad, maybe you all understand their worth is not based on their skills, but do the parents recognize that they're unconsciously making the athletes feel their worth is based on their skills? This is literally an entire hour workshop I do, how to have crucial conversations, how to properly talk to parents. So I'm giving you like the very little minimum because we don't have another hour. It is helping them see what they want and how there's dissonance between what they want. I want my child proud, happy, confident, versus what they're doing. Telling them if they don't level up, they're quitting cheer, that they have to level up, yelling at you for when they didn't make the level 2 team, that they've been on this team for 3 years, they should be able to move on, all their friends are on the other team. All of that is literally saying your life or death if you don't move up. So my first intervention is get all your parents on board. Then you have all the adults going to the kids going, honey, I get you want to get that back handspring, get that back tuck, because that feels like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But what's important to me, parents, what's important to your coach, Emily, is not the skill. The skill will happen if you're working hard, focusing on your effort, using strategies, working on your technique, working on your fear, working on your mindset. And when you struggle, you ask for help. You will end up getting that goal. But you do not directly control getting that goal. You don't directly control winning provincials because you can't control the judges. You can't control the stunt group on the other side of the floor. You can't control the difficulty of any other team out there. There's not offense and defense like in basketball or hockey. All you can control is your attitude, your efforts, how good of a teammate you are, and how you communicate. So when all of that is excellent, that is how we're going to end up getting the skill. So what can then I, as a triad, do? Stop talking about winning, stop talking about the skill, stop celebrating when they're throwing the skill, stop celebrating when they win, or when you do, just make sure that celebration is not bigger than and more often than you talking about their attitude, effort, coachability, teamwork, growth-mindedness, resilience. Essentially, it's creating a psychologically safe space. Again, another hour session that I do to be able to help create a positive, psychologically safe culture on your teams. And really the hard work is understanding how your language is reinforcing a fixed mindset. That's the dirty work that you got to be a champion-minded coach to be like, Jeff, tell me my blind spots. You keep pointing out that athlete over there and how coachable she is. I love that. But what did you do to that athlete over there? You just critiqued her and she did it better. What did you do next? Well, I told her something else she has to fix. Wait, but she fixed what you wanted. Well, yeah, it's not perfect yet. Blind spot. Was it better? Yeah. Did you tell her it was better? No. Did you tell her you're proud of her for focusing on fixing her grip? No. Fixed mindset. I hope that answers Emily's question.
Yeah, honestly,
a
that was
1 hour
really good.
question in 4 minutes. Sorry.
No, that was great. I think rewarding effort, rewarding attitude, and rewarding like good communication it really embodies what we want our culture to be. So I love that.
Good.
It's a short one. Okay, this is our last question. Okay.
Yep. Oh, I love it. That's a wise owl strategy. I could walk around, but I'm going to be faster by crawling. I love it.
Okay, so personally, I do like a lot of private lessons with kids, and I like to tell them, I don't know if there's a better way of wording this. This is why I was going to ask you, is like, I tell them to talk to themselves before they come to their privates and like at home and stuff, because they always ask what they could do at home to like make it better.
I love that.
I always tell them like, I want you to tell yourself that you can do it. And like, also like before they're going through the skill, sorry.
You're good.
Yes.
And before they do their skill, is it good for me to ask them, like, what are they going to do during the skill? Because I will tell them what I want them to do, but like asking them themselves, being like, oh, what are you going to do? Like step by step. And then they tell me, like I do that quite often. Like, is that good, or is that like kind of stuff?
You are absolutely 100% on the right track. Just to help level up now, because that's really what I'm hearing. One is like checks and balances. Jeff, is this a hole in my boat? Nope, you're good, but let's level this up. If you're already doing it, then it's easy. Let's make it a little bit harder. So what are some of the things my kids can start doing at home? Sorry, everybody, I can't help it. One thing that you can do is sign up or tell your athletes to sign up for my mental block course. It's a virtual course, and literally it's all of these strategies, like all wrapped up. They can go on my website, do it, all that. Sorry, had to do a self-promotion there. All right, what's the next thing they can do? What I hear you saying is visualization is something else they can do. Visualize yourself doing it. Now, well, you didn't quite say that, but that's where you're getting at. The next thing you can do is talk to them about scripting the skill. That means I want them to start write down each skill, one word that they need to focus on. That's what I would do for my teams. If it's an athlete with a mental block on the back handspring, scripting is going to end up being what I call keywords. And it's like, break your skill down into 3 sections. So it might be sit, swing, jump when I do my back handspring. So essentially what I'm asking this athlete to do is to script their keywords and then visualize at home. What else can I do, Jeff? Good question. Just remember, a lot of these are mental strategies. Some of them are physical. Next thing you can have your athlete do is a growth mindset journal. My favorite part about the growth mindset journal, and as a coach, if you can remember to hold them accountable, allow them to be negative. Allow their growth mindset journal to, it's called free association. Don't say that to your kids, but for sake of time, my wild monkey is going crazy. My husband, he wants me to spend time with him on Sunday. That's what's happening in my brain. So because of that, I recognize my wise owl isn't going to think of a kid-friendly word, but it's called free association. What does that mean? Allow your athletes just to write down, like, what are you frustrated by? What are you mad about? Why are you so upset with your amygdala? What do you wish could happen? And then what they do with that free association, ask them, now go back and talk about what are you grateful for with this? That might be hard. So then I talked about the remote control strategy, turn down the volume, change the channel, mute it. Then what I want them to do is try and change the channel and have them, okay, so like, mental blocks are the worst thing that's ever happened to me. What are you grateful for? I'm grateful that I get to work with a coach who loves and cares about me. I am grateful that my team still accepts me, and I'm grateful that I'm still involved in the stunt section of the routine. Change the channel. I'm not, let's say one free association is, my team is mad at me. Okay, change the channel to a growth mindset. My team has never said they're mad at me. In fact, all they do is support me, so that they're challenging that negative thought. Those are probably the first things I would say for that, things to do at home. Remind me your first name. You're going to need to say it again. Sorry.
Jaya.
It's totally Jaya. Sorry, it was totally mute. Couldn't
No,
hear
it's
anything you were saying.
Okay.
So Jaya had mentioned, okay, things that they can do at home. Jaya, does that feel like it levels up your what they can do at home?
Yeah, because I normally just tell them to tell themselves that yeah, so it's good.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you for taking the extra time with us. I really appreciate it. And I think we'll definitely be
You're
back
welcome.
for more,
Great.
so we can
I
talk about
love
all the
that.
other.
All right, sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
joining
much.
Sunday and
I'll talk to you soon.
participating. You're welcome.
Have a
Bye.
great day. Bye.